Hey, everybody, it's Friday and another episode of Email and Coffee with Joy Brooks. I'm talking with Ketty Minisalle today, and if you're eating, put it down. And if you're not eating, you're going to get hungry. We're going to be talking about lots of mindset, but food stuff. So, Ketty, take it away. Tell us a little bit about yourself.
Hello, Joy. Thank you for your nice introduction. Yeah, that's a good point because you say if you're eating, it means that if you're eating and watching, you're mindless eating. And maybe that's not the best. So coffee works. I mean, we're having a coffee chat, so it's totally fine. It's great to talk to you. Yeah, I'm a certified nutrition coach. I'm Italian, as you can get from my pronunciation, maybe. And I'm very purpose driven, working on my current business, which is helping mainly entrepreneurs and solopreneurs in living a better lifestyle, eating healthier, but as well on an holistic point of view. Together with Marcus, my partner, we are helping people in terms of in topics related to movement, mindfulness, and nutrition. So it's not I would say, the classical nutritionist approach that most people know. And yeah, I really like the combination of topics related to mindfulness or mindset and nutrition, because we think about nutrition as a food only, but it's not. It's a lot about mindset, behavior, and related to many complex topics, right?
Yeah, yeah. A lot of people will mention, almost trauma when it comes to food because some of us eat when we get nervous. Some of us drink when we get nervous, but uh, it's it's um, it's interesting because when you're working really hard, um, you may not break for eating. You may eat the wrong things. You may shove it down your throat. I'm guilty of what I don't know. Do the Italians call it a gavone? I'm, I'm guilty of just shoving it in my throat, shoving it down my throat. Sometimes I'll enjoy the first bite or two, and then it's mindless. It's
Mm.
just mindless. I'm guilty of that. Guilty. And I have tried all my life, which is why I'm fascinated by the topic of being a little bit more mindful of what I eat, how I eat, when I eat, and all those types of things. So I'd like. That's why I brought you on because I'd like to have that discussion. I'd like people to be a little bit more aware of what they're doing when it comes to food. It's just not what you put in your mouth. It's how you put it in your mouth, when you put it in your mouth, why you put it in your mouth, how many times you're putting it in your mouth.
A lot of stuff. Yeah, that's
A lot of
complex. What
stuff.
I mean with complex, the complexity, it's definitely it's big. And you mentioned why at the end, but actually that's the beginning, like reversing it a bit. I always try to have the first approach with why, because that's exactly the first question. And many of us eat for other reasons, which are not being like, the real hunger is cellular hunger. It's the energy that we need. So like uh, physically to nurture ourselves, to function, and to live and thrive. But many times it's the why is linked to emotional reasons, to stress, to habits, and many other personal stuff, which are definitely not, there is no one recipe fits all. That's the reason why the why is the very first point. And also when we set goals for improvement, like when you say I'm guilty of something, or like I want to improve something, and I know you did a lot of work on yourself on this. We were talking about it first time when we met. So why, it's always, it doesn't matter which. I mean, it's not about only mindful eating or food. It's in everything. When we want to improve ourselves and set goals, we always need to ask ourselves why. Because changes is difficult. We are not programmed for changes in general. We are. It's against survival mode. We want to keep on doing things that we know. That's
Hmm.
the reason why our background, so on a society level, on a family level, and narrowing down, it's so strong. And so when we need to change, we need something stronger than that, and must be a why. It must be like a big purpose. That's the reason why one thing I love to do is as well having like a vision board. When people say, okay, Katie, I want to improve this, let's work together. Or even for myself, I have a vision board that I know where I want to get. And if you don't know where you want to get, doesn't matter if it's for fitness or business or personal development, then it's difficult. So Why? For mindful eating, it's definitely the first way. Then the how, because it's not about the food you eat. And I always try as well to get away of the this is good, this is bad, because we are very maybe biased from all the things we read. Everybody can write everything. This is one day the banana is super healthy and it's super good, and the other day you read something and bananas are unhealthy and you cannot eat fruits because sugar. And oh, why do you eat so much? What was the other week? Had something like, oh, really? You eat mangoes every day? And you're like, okay, yeah. What's wrong with that? We are puzzled, confused. People don't know what's wrong, what's good, because we try to, yeah, to learn from what we have around. It's normal, especially with social media. But unfortunately, as always, there is also the, let's say, the difficult part of it, like navigating all that chaos of information. So the why first, the how, it's more related to the way we consume things, and as well the real mindful part. It's more on the how. Even if I see mindfulness as a whole approach. But if we go to the how, so pausing, not multitasking while we are eating, which we tend to do, right? Like
Yeah.
that's the beginning of our conversation. That's super important. And I know that very well. My background, so I worked 10 years in automotive industry as a professional. So I know what it means being always on the run for business meetings. I was traveling a lot in certain times. I was mindless eating enough in my life to know what it does it do with my body. And I see as well now on the other side of the story, like a nutrition coach, how stress related topics and time management as well, and prioritize, because sometimes it's not only the thing we say, oh, I don't have time, so I will grab something. It's about how you prioritize, right? We all have 24 hours. Of course, some people have certain schedules different, and each of us is a different story. But still, if you at least take that time to be fully present in the moment while you're eating, this is going to benefit not only the eating process per se, so as well your digestion, everything, but you can take it as a mindful moment in your day to be fully present and to as well, yeah, decrease your stress level. All the negative impacts that constant stress and hormones have in our overall well-being and health. And we think like, okay, it's something I need to do, I need to eat, but why not taking advantage of that time and practicing mindfulness in that moment, which is, you need anyway to eat. So take I don't know what's the right English expression. We say in Italy something like take two pigeons with one bean or something similar. Like you take two things, you get two benefits with one thing. Is there anything?
Kill, kill, kill two birds with one stone.
Oh yeah, of course. That's more aggressive than Italian
Yes,
version.
of
I googled
course.
it
Yes,
once. I thought like, oh, why do I need to kill them with stone?
because we're
Okay,
Americans.
yeah, yeah, but it's funny when we translate that literally, it doesn't make sense. Exactly. So the how, it's key, and the what comes afterwards, like with having the knowledge of what is good for you. Maybe it's good for you and it's not good for me. So there is things that cannot be standardized as healthy and unhealthy many times. Of course, some things are well known for being more healthy and less healthy. But we say, once we tell ourselves this is bad and we label it, or I need to have this negative think about something, many times people get even more attracted from this. So this is like a psychological things many times.
Mhm,
If you say deprivation, that's a word, right? If you
mhm.
deprive yourself for some things and it's heavy in terms of keeping on thinking, then especially if people suffer from some emotional eating and have problems controlling themselves, which often is the case, especially from what I'm seeing with some people I'm working with, that can be really dangerous. So yeah.
It's food is somewhat cultural as well, so it has some tradition involved in it, and you know, often, well, in many different cultures, the first thing you do when you sit down and you eat is you give grace, right? Like, in many cases, and I think that's the traditional aspect of being mindful, because be thankful that you have that food, because
Yeah.
many people don't,
Yeah.
right? And not only be thankful of the food, but be thankful of the process of how it got there, because it just didn't happen. It's a long process. Maybe somebody cooked it, maybe somebody purchased it. In any case, it grew somewhere and someone needed to watch over that process. So there's a lot that goes into food that you really need to be thankful for, not just take it for granted. So,
Yeah.
that's a traditional aspect of being mindful. But in my journey, when I was young and chubby, and um, I was always on diet, every possible diet. I was a vegetarian for like 40 years of my life. I was a vegetarian, and I still tend to be pretty much fish and vegetables. But um, all of that was my journey through food, because I really was trying to find out how to get the best. It's almost like, what gas is the best for this motor? I was
Mm.
trying to figure out what food was the best for the outcome that I wanted. And I wanted to be, I mean, I never wanted to be um, too thin, but I wanted to be comfortable in my skin. I wanted to feel energized, not sluggish. I don't like feeling bloated, et cetera, et cetera. I mean, really very simple things. Again, things we almost take for granted, but we shouldn't, because when we think of I've got to go on a diet, we should really break it down and say, what is it that I'm doing? What is it the diet is not just something that you do for 2 weeks before summer. It is something you do forever. It begins to bring you on the journey of how you look at food, and how you conceive of meal planning and all of those things.
That's super interesting because we kind of change the original meaning of diet. Like diet originally from the Greek diet, I'm not sure about the pronunciation, but that meant exactly what you are saying in terms of that sustainability in time and a lifestyle. So now when we say the word diet, we think all the diets which sometimes are trendy, coming, going, healthy, less healthy, crazy, less crazy. But actually, the real meaning of diet, it's exactly what it should be. It's it's a whole picture. So it really takes also the time perspective, and it takes also what else are you doing? Because of course, if my lifestyle is like sitting a whole day in front of a PC and having not a lot of no moving a lot, it's
Yeah.
different than if I'm doing. I know what you're talking about, but still, like you
See,
take time to go for a walk. I mean, you don't need to be.
yeah, but I have to do that, because otherwise, if I don't plan those things out, I'll be in front of the PC and it'll be 5 o'clock, and I'll be like, oh, I didn't do anything today.
Yeah,
You have to plan. You have to think about these things and plan.
that's what
And
I always.
also, when am I going to eat? And
Yeah.
I'm not just going to go grab a piece of bread and slap a piece of cheese on it and eat it. What am I going to do for lunch? When am I going to eat it? How much time am I going to give myself?
That's I think that's so simple. It's about what you prioritize, right? Always. Of course, you cannot give what you don't have, right? So if you don't have that energy, if you're not fit and healthy, the problem is that we realize it only when we are lacking of certain things. When we are like, no energy, nothing is moving, I cannot work, I cannot do business, then we think like, oh, really, this is so important. I start to need to prioritize. Many times people need to face, and it was a bit also my background like I had a bike accident. I was in coma. I was almost actually done with everything. And there was the moment where I started really to take care about myself, because before I was always on the run and job, career, friends, everything. It was like never ending kind of energy. And that's the thing. So we need to prioritize before get hitting our head on the floor. That would be the best, because sometimes some people need it, but actually nobody should experience that.
And when we're young, we tend to have a lot of energy, so we take it for granted.
Yeah.
The
I
point
did
is
I
that,
didn't know what it meant. Stop. like, my friends and family, everybody was saying like, you should stop. And for me it was like, I used to say really bad stuff like, I will rest when I will die, and then I will almost died, and then I thought like, maybe I should rethink of how I'm living. um yeah, but prioritize, and I mean literally putting it in our calendar. Like, I don't know how other people are doing. Many people that I know and myself, like, I need to have it scheduled. If I need to take the break, or I need to have it scheduled. So that's the thing. Until we don't really take it seriously, and we grab whatever it comes in terms of, okay, my lunch break is there, sitting in front of PC, taking a sandwich, and eating whatever because I'm eating, so that's fine. And you don't put quality inside. Anytime you don't get also the quality as output. So what you get inside in terms of input, it's so important for not only for our body. We're not talking about um, only weight or shape or whatever. We're talking about energy. We're talking about performance. We're talking about focus. This is so important. Like the topic focus. Right now, we're talking a lot about this because we are doing a kind of challenge with some professional on the topic, and so it's key because the quality of your work is also very influenced on how you move, how much you move, what you eat, and all things that relate to energy, to personal energy.
You mentioned, focus and what, and food and stuff, and there's the expression hangry when you don't eat and you
Oh
start
yeah.
getting angry. Like you
Yeah.
get in I'll get impatient, and I'll be, maybe it's 11 o'clock or so, and I'm working on something, and I'm trying to focus, and it's getting close to lunchtime, and I notice I'm getting hangry. I'm like,
That's probably your blood sugar goes
no,
down.
it definitely is. It
I
definitely is.
know that very well. I know that not only for myself, but also enough people. So I think, yeah, we're not alone in that. So you're not alone in that.
I mean, for me, what I did was I tried to determine how many calories I needed on a daily basis. And that meant journaling, food journaling with an Excel spreadsheet for a year. And I determined how many calories I needed. And then then after that, I was like, okay, now what is the food that is going to fill that space? Because it could be the right calories, but the wrong food. And
Mm.
for a year, I found wrong foods. So although I love bread, not a good food for me. Not a good food for me at all. I mean, I just, bread, certain carbs just don't go anywhere. And it doesn't matter. It could be chickpea bread. It could be all the, it could be the best types of bread. It's
Mm.
just, whatever it is, it doesn't work. I would need to add exercise, a lot of exercise,
Mm.
to get to the next level. And that's really the science there. It's
Yeah.
like if you are somewhat sedentary. So I work from home. I do a lot of work. I'm not like a runner or like a game player. I can walk. I could swim. I can bike ride, and that's pretty much, I mean, I can hike, but that's pretty much it. So I need to be able to identify who I am, what I can change, what I can't change. And for me, it was a concept of, now that I literally have the math. This plus this equals chubby. Okay, don't want to be chubby. This plus this equals not so chubby. Okay, don't want to be not so, keep on going until I get to the point where I'm comfortable. I'm able to manage it. It's sustainable. I like what I'm eating, so I'm never walking around going, I'm hungry. I really want a piece of chocolate cake. Never happens. I have no cravings. And but it took me 5 years. So this is
Yep.
not something simple.
I mean that's exactly. You did it by yourself, and you did the right thing. But of course, if you don't know exactly where to look for it, and you take a long time, it's everything, right? The most important point here for me, it's the awareness that you created for yourself. Because by doing that super helpful exercise, which I always start with my coaches with 1 week journaling, because they need to know where they are, right? So once you do that for 5 years, the intelligence you have is huge. People usually want super quick, solutions. And with this kind of things, there is no overnight success in that sense. So you need to really build it. But of course, that awareness exercise and that knowledge, your own, food that you're eating, your own behavior, putting it down and having it written and analyzing is a great exercise. That's what I always start with for a certain period of time. Then we repeat it 1 week, and then at the end, after depending on the and people have those moments like, wow, actually, just the fact of writing it, I become aware and I know what's going on. Of course, you have somebody helping you. The process is quicker because there's the experience and everything. But still, even if you do that by yourself, if there's one tip that I give, like even if I have chats with people independently of what I'm doing in terms of my job, it's really write it down, think about it, use your own knowledge, and have this self. Um, how do you say that, the self examination, like no examination, your self analysis, I would say, like of what you're eating and
Mm-hmm.
what that is doing with yourself. So not
Mm-hmm.
only in terms of weight, but also in terms of energy. How does it feel in the afternoon? Especially lunch is a big topic. If you're eating a certain way, and then one hour after, 1 hour and a half, 2 hours, you feel like you need ideally to go and take a nap. Then there is something there you need to fix.
Right.
So I think that point of awareness, and that's again the basics as well of the mindful topic. So the overall mindful approach from what we were talking at the beginning, not only in the act of eating, but also in listening to your body
Mm-hmm.
and learn to reconnect, because we come to the world with that connection. We know when we are hungry, we know when we need to fill our tummy and everything. Like we come to the world with many wonderful skills that we unlearn somehow. So it's about like then going back and unlearn what is good,
Mm-hmm.
what is not good.
Mm-hmm.
And of course, the food awareness topic, it's complex, but exactly that point of writing down and reflecting is it's key.
One of the things that I discovered for myself was when I need to eat. And oddly enough, maybe it's because I'm getting old. I don't know, but obviously breakfast is important, so I have breakfast. Lunch is important, and lunch is usually a bigger meal for me. And dinner is very early because I like to have that fast for at least 10 hours. At least 10 hours. So if I eat dinner at 3, it's early, but I get that fast between dinner and breakfast the next day. And I mean, I'll have water, clear liquid, but I won't have coffee. Anything like dinner is had, I have my coffee. That my last cup of coffee is 3:30, whatever. I don't have anything other than just water or something else after that. And that's good for me. I don't know if that works for other people, but it's really working
That's
for
an
me.
important topic. In the last years, the topic intermittent fasting has become super fancy,
Mm-hmm.
because all the everything that becomes fancy and trendy, I'm often skeptical. But
Mm-hmm.
because we go, it's industry, it's like the food industry, it's about the fitness industry. There are many things that if they sell and people see results quickly, ideally, that's good. But apart from this fasting, if we take it away of that trend, it's so important. Today we eat so often, like most of us keep on eating. Like if you think about eating only meals, it's one thing, but think about as well all the snacks. Even if you have the coffee with milk or
With
sugar,
it?
many people have
Right.
it with sugar
Mm-hmm.
or something. This is already kind of eating, because you are even if you're drinking, of course, but there's calories. And not only this, you are activating the digestion of this, so you are constantly stressing your whole overall system with food each second, third hour, so often. But that's not the way that we build longevity, that we build health, and that's not the way we have developed as human beings. Because we came from eating at a certain time. Today we talk about eating windows, and not continuously, which is not only related to weight management, but again to being healthy, to give our body those mechanisms that repair themselves. And you do that, so a cellular level, so you give that time the time window where you're not eating, where actually you need that for being healthy. So that constantly eating, it's not doing us well as an overall society, because if you think about especially US. I was reading now about Mexico, because we are traveling around Mexico half a year, and similar numbers from what I see in US, like three-quarters of the population are overweight or obese. Here it's crazy, the sugar topic. People keep on drinking a lot of sugar, especially cokes or all the soda stuff. So you are constantly putting your whole system into that process, and that's actually poison.
Very bad. Yeah, it's very
It's
bad. Sugar.
terrible. Yeah, I mean, the numbers are there. It's not like, we're not talking about things and probably, maybe. We are talking about, it's a real pandemic. Like, it's a real, the obesity topic, the sugar topic, especially here, but I think it's not very different from US. In Mexico, maybe even a bit worse for the sugar, especially for everybody's drinking Coke all the time. Water, it's even more expensive than Coke, because people are, it's no matter which age, it's something quite scary.
I I don't think people realize that what what happens to your body when you actually put the sugar in your body. I mean, there's so much that goes on with that nutrient. We'll call it a nutrient, whether it's just sugar or it's a Coke or it's an apple or it's
Even
uh,
if it's different, I mean, I wouldn't compare a Coke with an apple, because yeah, of course it's sugar, but it's
it's a
the
whole bunch of other
all the
things when you eat
it's
an
different.
apple. It's
Yeah.
food,
Yeah, but that's also, if you talk about again like our lifestyle, the way we are living and working. Think about many times when we say, okay, now many people, at least I did have that habit as well, and I see many people that luckily are getting out and feeling better. If you feel like the focus is going down, your energy is going down, especially in the afternoon, what do many people do? They grab some snacks, some sweet snacks, something, because
right?
they think like, okay, this is giving me the energy I need now to keep on working at whatever the task at hand. But that's exactly what at the end is sabotaging our own energy, because that insulin spike created by exactly that sugar snack, it's wow, that moment where you feel like alertness and everything, but then the drop, the crash down, like you get now exactly that feeling of needing more. So it
Right.
creates that loop of, okay, I need more. And I know that in business meetings, when we were, doing long meetings, and people after lunch actually would have need a walk, but instead of that, they thought like, I need a snack.
Right.
Our body tells us what we need. We just keep on often ignoring it, and that's why we get then that energy so low. Then we started thinking, oh, maybe there's something wrong with my health. Maybe, of course,
Inevitably it will happen if you keep eating that way. It's like
yeah.
sitting at um and it's happened so many times. You go to a meeting and what do they serve? Coffee and donuts. And I'm like, don't eat that donut. Don't eat that donut. There's absolutely nothing in that donut. If anything, you may as well just eat some cement with
Think
sugar on it,
about
because
it.
that's what it's doing. the
Yeah.
the oil in it is bad. The sugar in it is bad.
Yeah.
The only possibility, that the only possible thing in there is maybe the grain that it was made from, but that's far and few between of all the horrible things that are in it to
But
start with.
exactly, that's a super example. Like, think of how much benefit could organizations have if they knew how to fuel the energy of their employees, or if there's a customer meetings, whatever it's going on. If you fuel the energy of your people in the right way, in a sustainable way, so that it boosts the creativity they need at the time, the focus and concentration, instead of not only making them sick in the long term, but it's a single decision that's nothing to do with organization deciding for employees, or entrepreneurs deciding for somebody else. It's really about personal thing. But still, if somebody is attending a meeting or something, think about what kind of revolution would it be like to fuel our brain with the right nutrition.
Yeah, imagine going to a meeting and having um, fruit, nuts, little packages of nuts, and water. Imagine going to a meeting and having that.
And water. That's
and
one
water.
thing that many really don't think about it. But just like 1-2% of the hydration has a huge impact on our overall focus. I mean, we made out of water. Meanwhile, I think we've been reading and hearing so much that at least that six. And still, if you think about what you were saying before about like writing down what you write, you made me thought about. I had different coaches that were drinking really like not even half of what they should have drunk, but they realize it only when they starting to write down, like being mindful of how am I consuming food and drinks throughout the day. So that's again, it boils down to awareness, everything. And the knowledge, you need to have a piece of knowledge. Not everybody can, not everybody should study, nutrition and become certification coach, but still at least get the good information, good source of information from, people that know what they're talking about, and not reading from everything and being even more confused. So knowledge, a base, listen to your body and being aware of what you're doing, being mindful of what you are buying, why you're eating, like all the things that we go a bit deeper into the topic, instead of say what I'm eating, but where am I buying, what you said at the beginning, like what does things come from. So everything we do has a huge impact with ourselves in terms of food that we input, but also if we go a step further, I don't want to go too away from the topic, but just I want to put that seed in our mind. The impact that that have is not only in ourselves and our health and the input of our work, is also on the overall environment. So everything is connected. We forget about the connection. We think like, oh, I need a piece of steak, the best high quality because of the right proteins and amino acids. And actually, if you know how some stuff works, then you know that you get some amino acids even if you don't hate the steak a day or whatever. So, and the impact our decisions have are huge. And we are not only making decision for ourselves, we make a decision as well for other people and as
Mhm.
well for the environment. So the interconnectedness between what we consume and the impact we have, it's something that unfortunately it's far away from how we behave. And that's I mean,
It's
if I think like of course my mission now is help people like to live healthier, and I know that there is so much that can be done with like not a lot of efforts, but knowing what you need to do, like leverage the right things. But at the same time, the biggest thing for me, like the real bigger purpose, would be to have more awareness on our actions and on the bigger level, on the impact. That's something that it's definitely like more like my soul inside those topics.
do do you have like any suggestions, do's and don'ts about how people should prepare? Because I I I'm I work on I really do work on a menu. I know the food I have, and I prepare lists when I food shop, and I'm making things. So I'll be like, okay, I'll make that cauliflower for with the Parmesan cheese. So I'll need that, and I'll need this, and that I'll have for lunch for 3 days. If I make, I think about, I literally plan it out. In the winter, I'll make soup, right?
Hmm.
And the soup will literally last me the whole week. So I'll be like, lunch is done. All I need to do is bring the pot out, and I think like that, but not everybody else does. So they'll go with the easy prepared meals, and I don't know if that's any easier than preparing something really simple from scratch so that you know what foods whole foods you're getting.
Yeah, I think there are two main strategies. Like the one that you are mentioning, like preparing, like for example, people have more time during the weekend, so they can prepare some things like, I don't know, some, I take an example of the whole grains, some whole grain rice or quinoa for the next 3 days. Then you can then change something. So one thing is preparation. There are people that also prepare like a whole week for, maybe it's like what you're saying, right? They're like preparing everything. But the other thing, at least what I think could be an alternative, and what I'm always suggesting, and of course some people take the suggestion, other people they mix it in their own flavor, which is good, is always trying to have a basic of structure of the plate they eat, they do, and with simple stuff. Like you can create so much with 10 minutes, because at the time, let's take the time, the 10 minutes that a rice is cooking or a quinoa or another kind of whole grain, those 10 minutes you can quickly do some vegetables in a pan with some olive oil and have a source of protein, that whether it's depending, if it's a fish, something that goes quick. I mean, I almost never prepare things that it's longer than 10, maximum 15 minutes. 10 minutes is but the practice gets to it and knowing what to do. So compose that composition of the plate with one whole grain or another form of carbohydrates, like, I don't know, sweet potatoes. In that case, of course, you need to cook that before, but you don't need to stay there when it's cooking. If you're working from home, of course, if you then you need to organize yourself. The protein source, many protein sources go quickly. If it's eggs, if it's vegetable ones as well, pulses, beans, you don't need to cook them yourself for hours. You can also have something in glasses that it's already almost made. And then vegetables, like if you think about it and if you start doing it, not just think about it, like there's so many things you can do in 10 minutes. You just need to know, okay, what is the mix? So those three things, like complex carbs plus proteins, which is big for focus in the afternoon, to avoid that afternoon slump, not to have only carbs, and at the same time not avoiding carbs, because carbs are not the evil, right? Like many of the modern trends are saying like, no, carbs are super bad, but it's actually, you need to understand which carbs are doing good to you, because you
Mm-hmm.
said it, you understood bread is not good for you. Maybe it's great for somebody else. So you need to learn what your body is telling you. Our body has so much knowledge that we just need to unveil. So that kind of structure, the last part of the after the protein carbs is definitely some vegetables and good fats, some good fats. So if you know how to mix like the ideal plate, there's so much you can do in 10 minutes, and you don't need to do fancy stuff. It's the important thing is it's nutritious, it tastes good, and it's quick. So yeah, I mean, if anybody wants tips for a quick meal for lunch, I have plenty of them. I became like expert on this because I was like in a full-time job, side hustle, and needing to have time as well when I was at home for family, for my boy, for everybody. So I needed really like to specialize for this, and everybody that knows me knows that quick tips are actually my specialty. That's what I'm always providing. My
I don't think everybody needs to become the chef of the future. It doesn't
no,
really need to be like
no.
that. Because, chicken can be cooked fairly easily with salt, pepper, maybe lemon and olive oil, and it can be very good, right? And you make when I say a batch, if it's for a family, then the batch goes immediately. But I'm saying if it's just for you for lunch, you can make a batch and you can have lunch for a few days. I mean, I'll have like a 7-minute egg and slice that up or with an avocado, and that could be my lunch, right?
Yeah, that's the thing. Organizing yourself with quick stuff. That's it. Of course, if you then keep on eating all the time the same thing, and people get
No,
bored
yeah,
from eating,
yeah,
it's
yeah.
not good. That's the reason why I prefer like not having that big preparation. Where people say, okay, I eat then for the whole week. There are people that they're really saying, oh, really, I prefer eating every day the same thing, and I mean, preferring is one thing, but it's not good because we need variety. We need a variety of things that sustain us with the right macronutrients, and only with the micronutrients like the vitamins, the minerals we need. If you eat all the time the same thing, you may lack of nutrients. So that's not
Right,
so.
exactly.
But finding that mix and respecting this one rule of putting together those three parts, or better, three plus fats, so proteins, carbs, adding good vegetables, and then some whether it's a good oil or avocado, some fat that it's healthy. Then, as you said, we don't need to become gourmet
You
chefs.
don't. You
That's
really
not.
don't.
Yeah,
That leave that up for the weekend when you party and you're going out to that big fancy restaurant. You really don't need to be making the gravies with the, fancy vegetables and it's make your life as simple as possible. Start getting acclimated with what you can do so it's sustainable, So you can continue to do it, because if you're going to fail after the first week, you're going to constantly set yourself up for failure. And you don't have to do that.
Yeah,
Everything in life needs to be sustainable, whether it's, your own
absolutely.
marketing, or, food, or, a lifestyle. It has to be sustainable. Otherwise, at some point in time, you're going to hit the brick wall, and then you're going to fail.
Absolutely. And that's not about a diet, it's about a lifestyle. And it's not about a gym, it's about the mindset of keeping on
Right.
moving. So there is no perfect shape. Perfection doesn't exist in anything for me personally. So if you look for perfection, the problem is that people think like to say, oh, I need to do exactly that. And then if something happens, because something will happen, then you think like, okay, now it's how do you say, break it all? Like if
Yeah.
it's already broken, I break it all. And that's the problem, because then all the unbalances makes up like with the motivation, with okay, it's not exactly how it needs to be. So there is a lot of mindset again topics. So find something that it works for you, that you can imagine to do the rest of your life, ideally, of course, always with some changes, updates, and things that you can add, or ideally even not even adding but removing, because you keep it simple as the number one. Keep it simple. Keep it simple ingredients. Keep it simple ingredients is the best. Keep it all as well real, with real food. And
Real.
I mean, and the rest, it's about listening to your body. Of course, if you know where to start from, it's always good to have some help and create a plan.
Hmm.
Mm, but in that case that you think like, okay, I can do by myself, then follow simple rules and be as well mindful of what you're doing now, and do one little improvement day by day, because nothing changes in a matter of, especially with big habits that are so stuck in us that it's not easy to change a lot. So one little thing after the other, and the picture will look in 1 year much better.
Yeah. And sometimes it's, I'm a do-it-yourself kind of person, but not everybody else is like that. And even I have found that talking with somebody, an expert that knows something more than I do, and there are many people like that. I mean, I can have a conversation. I can bounce things off of them and get an idea of what to do. And some people, we all need that at some point in our lives. We all need that. So having that conversation with a nutritionist, with a coach, trying to get something together for yourself. There's a lot to be said about that. There's a lot of peace in that. And there is no perfection, but there is something called peace of mind.
Mm.
And that that is something that we need to get to ourselves. And it is a journey, and it does require discovery, but it will provide a lot of self-love, so
Yeah.
that at the end of the day, you might say, I made a few mistakes. I did things I didn't, I shouldn't have done. I perhaps can do this better. But you know what? I'm okay. I'll be able to, do it better tomorrow, because,
Yes.
of this, that, and the other thing. And
Yeah.
you go to bed at night, and you're not up all night stressed out trying to, solve the world's problems. There's only so much you could do. There's only so much energy that you have. There are only so many solutions. There are only, an approximate number of results that are positive. So, you really need that peace of mind. And that goes with mindfulness. It really does.
Yes, peace of mind and self-compassion.
Yeah.
That's two good ingredients for change, especially if we need to really change the way we're living and acting, and self-love, of course. Self-compassion and
Yeah.
self-love are best friends.
And it doesn't come easily. It doesn't come easily. But when it's genuine, it's comforting. I
Yeah.
mean, there may be, we may be very popular and a lot of people love us, but that doesn't mean that we love ourselves. And then we may be all alone with no one, and we love ourselves so much that every day is a gift.
That's so important what you're saying, because that's I think it's really like the base of everything else that we're saying now. If you're talking about changes and you talk about the topic self-love, when we keep on doing, things that we know are harming ourselves, many times it's nothing to do with the food, nothing to do with, and that's exactly the reason why. And I know that well, because it was another reason that brought me to what I'm doing now. I had some eating disorder issues, and that never starts from food. Food, it's an addiction sometimes, right? It's like,
Hmm.
as you said, maybe alcohol is something else. So everything goes down to that awareness, but at the very bottom, it's self-love. So if I keep on prioritizing my business, I know that one day or the other I will hit the bottom. No, I mean, if I don't prioritize my health together with my business, I cannot have a healthy business because there's no healthy me. If there is no healthy me, then how am I going to be able in the long term to sustain all of that? So those things go hand in hand. So once we get that, and yeah, unfortunately, many get it only after they crossed something. Like unfortunately, I had some bad news as well from recently from people that I know that were taking too much time before starting that self improvement, and then they need a heart attack to say, okay, now I need to. But it boils down to self love. You love yourself, you respect yourself, and you really want to do whatever you're doing in the long term, if it's a business or working for organizations, whatever makes you fulfilled. If you find fulfillment in what you do and not in something else, then you need to start from yourself. And our health is the base. Without that, there's no money, no fame, no position of whatever in this world that can save us. Yeah,
That's right. You can have all
we
the
need.
shoes, every pair of shoes that you ever wanted, you can own. But
Yeah,
that
we need
doesn't
to
mean
play the
that
long run. Yeah, on the long
it's
run.
not.
Otherwise, it's short term, and the short term games are not so funny, right?
And I could fit into the clothes. I could be the teeny size and fit into all the clothes and wear all the sexy stuff. But again, that doesn't mean anything.
Yeah,
That doesn't mean anything. It's
yeah,
the journey, the food journey that I had was not about how I looked as much as it was how I felt I
yes,
looked.
yeah,
And then I needed to say to myself, what is that feeling? Like, what
hmm,
is it that I'm feeling? And what does that all mean? And that was, that still is a topic of conversation because, it is all of the habits that we all have that we almost don't even know we're doing. Like when you get nervous, you start to clean, right? That habit. A lot of people have that, and they don't even know they're doing it, but they're like they've got the nervous energy, so suddenly they've got to clean the kitchen from the floor up, and it's like you don't usually do that. Why are you doing that? There are lots of odd habits that people have.
yeah.
Um,
Mindfulness, it's a great tool to really like go through all of this problems that sometimes maybe it's not calling problems, maybe it's not the right word, but all of this mechanism behind what we do, how we behave, and really like pausing and observing. And
right.
that's the reason why together with Marcus we started to think about what we're doing, who we are, how we can help people, how are we helping people, and putting that together and saying, okay, actually we need to see the overall picture. It's not all about the food, it's not all about the movement. And the mindful linking point is exactly what covers everything that is connected to that
Hmm.
improvement that we want to do in our life, in our behavior, and going deeper into the topics, right? It's not usually maybe the approach of what you can think of when you think about fitness, but the way we think of fitness, the way we work is really like going beyond that surface. And that's the reason also why we call it beyond fitness, because it starts from the mind. It never starts from something. It starts from us,
Hmm.
from our story, history,
Hmm.
and our purpose.
Hmm. And that brings us to the point of where can people find you if they need to have a conversation?
Right now, LinkedIn. We are in LinkedIn. We have a really, really nice community there, and I'm always happy to connect to people that are interested in learning more and learning from people, especially because that's the real reason of social networks for me. And as well, we have a website. It's called phygitalme.com. Phygital, it's like the physical plus digital. Yeah, because we live in this digital world. I mean, look at now we're talking in in the digital world, but we are in the real world, trying to improve always and help as many as possible on the way. So digital me, it's that's many people think like, what does it mean? Like sometimes I need to explain it. Yeah, so those two right now. We're starting as well with our channel in YouTube, so probably we will exchange some information, the two of us, because you're already doing some stuff there. But right now we're active in our website and in LinkedIn through Ketty Minisalle.
Okay. I will drop the links below and share that information with people. It's been a pleasure talking with you.
My pleasure, Joe. It's really, really nice. Yeah,
I
thank
wish
you.
you I wish you and Marcus a lot of luck in what you're doing, and I hope that people find you and find peace of mind.
Oh, yeah. That's a beautiful wish. That's my hope as well. That's my hope as well for everybody. Thank you very much, Joy.
Thank you. And that's a wrap, everybody. Take care. Until next time.